everyone, welcome to Mamapedia and I am Avika. Today I will be talking to you about the safety of your child not outside the house but within the four walls of your own home. Today I will be speaking to you about childproofing. How can you go about childproofing your home and what are the very essential tips that you must remember once you begin to baby-proof or childproof your house. But before we proceed, please don't forget to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification of our upcoming videos. So let's begin. As long as the baby is in their mother's womb, as parents, we take every precaution to make sure that the child is healthy and happy all the time. The same thing, my friends, applies the moment you have the newborn in your arms. The responsibility increases manyfold. And so, you have to make sure that your house is absolutely child safe. It's very important that the child is able to grow and to explore and to develop in a very safe and healthy environment. I must point it out here that mostly I've seen childproofing is the last thing on anybody's mind. And I don't blame you for it. The moment you know you're going to become a mom or a dad or a granddad or a grandmom, the first thing which comes to your mind, the names and the clothes you're going to buy and the toys you're going to have and the kind of curtains you want for the room, that's all nice. But the fact of the matter is, it's really important that your child gets a very safe and secure environment at least for the first 2 to 3 years of his life. Therefore, according to me, the best time to start childproofing your home is, well, let's say the day you're sure that you're going into labor or perhaps even before that. For me, I made a big mistake. I planned on everything except paddings and wires and grills and railings. And then let me tell you one thing very honestly, I paid a price for it. My little baby fell down from the bed and really hurt himself. That is when I realized that we cannot really put off childproofing for later. It is something that should be done as soon as or even earlier than the baby arrives in your home. So now I'm going to share with you a few tips and tricks that ensure that your kid can grow up a happy and a bumpless child. Over this period of 1 year after having my baby, I have noticed that I love listing out priorities. I love listing out stuff. So to make it easier for you to remember how you should go about baby-proofing your house, well, there are 5 points that I have in mind. Modify, remove, fix, secure and observe. I have a feeling over this period of 1 year, I have modified, changed a lot of things in my lifestyle and in my home to make sure that he is safe whenever he goes. Similarly, removing things that might be dangerous or hazardous to a baby's health is something that you must do in your home to make it childproof. Fixing up of loose ends, loose wires, doors, windows and hinges goes without saying is of course a very big priority. Securing, I shall come to that later. And well, observing. We all learn parenthood by parenting. It's as simple as that. Similarly, we all learn how to childproof more and more things around us or lesser and lesser things around us the moment we see how the child is developing his cognition, how he's able to understand around himself, how he's able to grasp on what is bad, what is not, what is dangerous and what is not. So now I am going to explain to you what I mean by these 5 magic words. Let's begin with the first one, modify. Let's face the facts. The moment we have a baby in our house, everything changes. Our whole lifestyle turns upside down, but it is beautiful. We have to make sure that we make certain modifications so that this feeling is always of happiness and not of guilt at any given point of time. So let me begin with the first thing. Modification for that matter may not be very big modifications. For example, if you have a bed which is high, you could perhaps add padding to it. I have noticed that if I add padding around the edges of the bed or push the bed into a corner, for example, you could make sure that the bed comes into the corner of the room. That way you only have perhaps only two open sides which you have to guard, and that is a big relief, especially when the child starts to roll over and crawl. As a newborn baby, it happens many a times that within the first few weeks the child begins to roll over. So what you must do then is bring on the padding. How do we do it? It's not really expensive. Let me in your secret. The fact is, you've been pregnant, so you must be having some pillows and cushions around to throw. Bring in all those pregnancy pillows and cushions and make a nice fluffy padding around your baby. That will help all the time that the child tries to roll over, or even if he tries to bump his head or crawl towards the wall, you will always have a pillow or a cushion ready to soften the fall or the bump. While on the topic of the bed, make sure that you have a soft mattress or some kind of a carpet which is underneath the bed. Just in case you have a high bed and the baby rolls over and almost falls off the bed, at least you have something soft to break his fall and he doesn't hurt his head on the floor. And well, in our case, as I told you earlier, we sort of made a mistake. We began childproofing quite late. I thought that he would not crawl so early, where I was mistaken. So my poor kid fell off the bed. So what the doctor told to us was, rather than investing in a lower bed or trying to change other things, simply move to a room where you can have a floor mattress. While we're on the topic of beds and sleeping areas and play areas, a lot of people nowadays invest in cribs. It's a really good concept. You have an enclosed space for the child to play in and to sleep in, and I vouch for it. It's a very, very good deal. But must remember, one thing you must remember is then after the child has fallen asleep, please raise all the four sides of the crib. I have noticed in certain households that they like to have a concept of co-sleeping with the crib. It's a great idea, but there are chances that the child might want to crawl out of the railing which has been already put below the normal height. So let's just say it's safer to have a crib and then to raise all the railings while the child is asleep. Another thing that we must keep in mind when we are talking about cribs is that while it might be a very, very convenient way to leave the child unattended and then go about doing your other chores of the house, I advise that one must not leave the child in the crib completely unattended. If your crib has wheels, or if you can move it to a place where you can keep an eye on the child, I think that is absolutely ideal. My own cousin tried to crawl out of the crib and fell out of it. It really hurt herself bad. She broke her tooth. We don't want that for our kids. So please, if you do have a crib, keep an eye on the child, because you never know when they reach their milestones. Suddenly they'll start standing, and during that time, you don't want them falling anywhere. So this was the first point under my modification theory. The second thing that I really think you should modify are your electrical sockets and plugs. Many households in India have sockets and plugs which are near the floor. For obvious reasons, we put our heaters and we have other machinery and appliances that we would like to use and which we have to keep on the floor. My advice in this situation, the tip that we used, was that we changed our sockets to childproof sockets. Now these are easily available in all the hardware stores across the country. You can also order them online. These are very, very, very advantageous plugs and sockets. They are like normal sockets, just that they have little covers within them. So when you have to plug in, you have to put in a little bit of force, and if a child tries to poke his finger or tries to put something into it, that finger or that item will not reach the metal conductor of the plug. That way, well, basically you avoid and prevent electric shocks. That's a very, very, very important thing. So if you can switch to electrical sockets which are childproof, it is ideal. In our case, some of the sockets we couldn't change, some of them we could. The ones we couldn't change, we just taped them up with normal transparent scotch tape. If you can do that, perfect, nothing like it at all. So the child does not know how to remove the tape, and it's childproof on a budget. So now that you've talked about modifications, it brings me to my second point, which is fix it. Let's face the facts, in our house, not everything can be perfect all the time. But once you have a child, you need to really introspect and find out what are the areas where a child who has complete innocence, does not know good from bad, what are the areas, what are the places and the things that can hurt him, and fix those areas and places. For example, if you have a cupboard which might have, say, hardware tools or staplers or pins, please fix a latch on that cupboard and make sure that that cupboard locks properly. The same thing goes for other places which could be dangerous. For example, your balconies, your kitchens, your bathrooms. Make sure the latches on all of these are sufficiently high so that even if your young one starts to stand up on his own 2 feet, he cannot reach out and, well, unlock the latch. So make sure that all of these things are fixed. If you have hanging doors or loose electrical wiring or anything like curtain rods or falling pelmets, please fix them up, because the child will want to explore, start standing by holding onto these supports. And supports like a loose wiring and hanging doors and windows are not really something that they should be holding on to. There's a big risk that all of this will topple and fall on him and hurt the child. Now, I've spoken about the things that are fixtures. Also, if you have an open balcony, or for example, you have big French windows and window panes, make sure that you can install, if not for always, not permanently, but make sure that you can install grills and railings wherever needed. It is really essential that a child gets ample amount of sunlight and open air where he can go and just look at everything outside at the greenery, a lot of breeze in his, hair. But to do all that at a window which doesn't have a grill or a railing is not a very conducive proposition. So if you can add grills and railings to all of these areas, do that. That will really help to let him explore and be a happy kid. Now that I'm assuming that you've modified your bedroom and you've fixed all the loose ends, now's the time that I talk to you about securing. Now, basically, to secure means to make sure that it is fixed in a place. So what happens generally with kids that I have noticed is that they love to climb, they love to open stuff, and they love to explore within boxes and drawers and chests and shelves. So what you can do is that if you have very heavy bookcases or bookshelves in your house, make sure that you secure them to the wall. If you have a chest of drawers with your clothes and your dressing tables, please make sure that you have either secured them with a hinge or totally just drill them into the wall. That's the best thing to do. Just drill them into the wall. This brings me to my fourth point, remove. My mom told me one thing when my son was born. Isko chidhana mat, which means basically don't tease the child. Don't give him something and then not let him have it, because that creates a very negative impact on the child. He begins to cry for attention, and to get that thing he will become really stubborn. The same thing applies to the things lying around in your house. Whether it's the crystal vase that your aunt gifted to you on your wedding, or it is the big shelf and with books in it, or whether it is your most treasured possessions of your paintings and your papers, make sure that you do not keep these items within the reach of a growing child. A child is attracted to just about anything in this world. Colors, sparkly things that make different sounds, of sizes, different shapes and sizes. Anything can attract a growing child because there is so much of curiosity. So if you have certain things that are valuable to you, or you have certain things around you which might be hazardous to the safety of the child, which might be dangerous to the safety of the child, remove those items. Now, while I'm talking about removing, I must also tell you that certain things, I must enumerate certain things which I feel are very commonplace in our households, but you must remove. I just have to tell you these. So the first is secure the bathrooms, and within the bathroom, say your toddler crawls up someday that you're not there, or you've gone somewhere and he crawls into the bathroom. This is where the removal part will come in. Remove all the acids, the phenols, the essential oils, whatever can cause harm to your baby. Make sure that you put them on the highest shelf in the bathroom. It's okay if you have to climb a stool and get them down, but keep them away from the reach of a child. The same thing holds for your medicine cabinets, the cupboards. Do not keep heavy weights like dumbbells or your medicines or your syrups and lotions in a place where he can access them easily. You need to understand that all of these things, including your dressing table drawers, which might have safety pins, clips, coins, beads, smallest things like plastic rubber bands or threads, all of these things should be kept in a place locked up away. These might be a little inconvenient for you, but you need to understand that these are really important things. Moving to the removal part, to your kitchen. A kitchen is, as it is, a very volatile place of action. You need to understand that a child should not be kept in the kitchen at any time unsupervised and unattended. A kitchen is full of potentially dangerous things like knives, graters, mixies, microwave ovens, plugs, or gas burners. Anything at all can turn into a potential catastrophe. So what you need to do is make sure that you lock the door to the kitchen, and if you do have any of these potentially dangerous items on the lower racks, in the lower cupboards, make sure that you remove them and put them above the kitchen slab. That way the child will not be able to reach them, and at least to some extent you will have made your kitchen a safe area. Another very important point when it comes to childproofing your house is childproofing the house in a psychological way, which means that mentally you keep a note of what is good and what is not for your child. Even when guests come over, there has to be always a prevalent sense of that principle of childproofing in your house. So what you must do is, if you're serving your guests stuff like sprouts or stuff like chana or pulses as snacks, make sure that you tell them very clearly that these things should not be fed to the child, because these are choking hazards. So make sure that even the small bites that you keep on the kitchen counter or outside to give to your guests are out of the reach of the child. Or if by the way you'd like the child to eat it or taste it, make sure in your home you have such snacks that are easily let's say swallowable for the child. So this brings me to the last and the final point of my 5 essentials: observation. Make sure that you observe the growth of your child. Just like parenting is an evolving process, childproofing a house is also an ever evolving process. For a little baby who's a newborn, padding might be the epitome of childproofing. While for a kid who's 2 years old and a bundle of energy, you need to make sure that the almiras are not easy to climb onto so that he can climb up there, become Superman and jump off. We don't want that happening. So develop and observe. Keep looking around for signs and signals which your child will give you to what next can you childproof. If he's ready to stand on his 2 feet, make sure he has adequate, firm and sturdy supports that he can hold on to. So that brings me to the end of this video. If you have enjoyed watching this, I am glad. Do share it with your friends and let me know how you like the video. Let me know if I have missed out on any tips and tricks that you've used in the childproofing ideas of your house. Are there any suggestions or any doubts that you have? If there's anything at all that you would want me to know or to discuss with Mamapedia, please leave your suggestions, your ideas, tips and tricks in the comment section below. Again, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for notifications.